Have you ever felt your heart race when you send that last message and there's still no reply? The emptiness when your phone stays silent and the nagging fear. Do they even care anymore? Those are the hallmarks of anxious attachment, a subconscious spiral that drives you to flood their inbox, keep score of affection, or even spark jealousy just to feel secure. In this video, you'll uncover how these emotional traps really work, from bombarding notifications to silent withdrawal as punishment, from scoring love points to playing jealousy games. All stem from the fear of abandonment and the craving for connection. But instead of waging a control battle that's never really yours, discover how to transform uncertainty into inner strength. You'll learn to pause at the right moment, take a deep breath, and self-soothe before you hit send. You'll master healthy boundaries, cultivate confidence with every heartbeat, and build an inner safety net independent of anyone else's response. Once you understand this mechanism, you'll be free from the cat and mouse in love and step into lasting calm and agency. If you crave an end to the frantic texting cycle and wish to forge an unshakable bond, don't miss this video. Hit subscribe and enable notifications so you never miss an insightful strategy. Watch until the very end, because every second you invest today lays the foundation for a strong, fulfilling relationship tomorrow. Within an intimate relationship, the most profound connection between two people lies in their willingness to lift the veil of internal armor and allow themselves to truly show up in all their vulnerability and yearning for empathy. This is the concept of vulnerability. When you open your heart, you don't just share thoughts and feelings, but a part of yourself, one that can be wounded, abandoned, and judged. For those with anxious attachment styles, this capacity often triggers a series of unconscious behaviors, demanding constant reassurance, flooding messages whenever their partner is slow to respond, tallying emotional scores to feel entitled to speak up, even silent withdrawal as punishment, or creating tension to force the partner to come back. All stem from a deep-seated fear that if you don't continually cling, you will disappear from their attention and the relationship will crumble. Conversely, avoidantly attached individuals react with a self-protective reflex entirely different. When they sense excessive engagement, they retreat into their shell, lock down emotions, and minimize interaction as much as possible. For them, showing vulnerability is a threat because it reveals you need too much from someone who cannot give it all. They crave independence and autonomy, and any sign of dependency or pleading suffocates them. The consequence is a characteristic spiral between anxious and avoidant partners. The more anxious you become, the more you press. The more you press, the more they pull away. The more they pull away, the more anxious you feel. This cycle repeats endlessly, and both parties grow exhausted with reassurance strategies that never suffice. This interaction is not merely isolated actions, but an unspoken dialogue about the need for safety and respect for boundaries. When you send a midnight message, you're calling out, "Stay with me," and when they choose silence, they're asserting, "Respect my personal space." In this context, vulnerability becomes a double-edged sword. If you are too vulnerable, you will truly be hurt. But if you never allow yourself vulnerability, you will never truly meet each other. So how can you balance these seemingly opposing forces? First, you must build an inner safety foundation. Learn to self-soothe when anxiety surges, to accurately recognize insecurity, to name and embrace it instead of ignoring it or projecting it onto others. Next, transform reassurance-seeking behaviors into clear communication. Rather than sending a flood of mood emojis or waiting for affection points, you can say directly to your partner, "When I don't see a response, I feel anxious. I'd like to know when you're available, so I'm not on edge." This reduces the unconscious nature of anxious actions and simultaneously conveys respect for your partner's time and space. For avoidant individuals, they need to see that vulnerability isn't pressure but a gateway to genuine connection. When you communicate candidly, remember to include boundaries. "I need to share, but I also understand you sometimes need space. I respect that." This approach allows them to maintain their sense of autonomy while feeling safe with you. The interaction between vulnerability and attachment behavior thus becomes a symphony where both parties keep tempo. You occasionally allow vulnerability as a melodious motif, and they respond with pauses respectful of your space. When both learn to listen consciously to themselves and each other, the relationship transforms from a weary chase and avoid cycle into a joint journey of building security where vulnerability is no longer a trap, but a bridge leading to genuine closeness. Remember, the key isn't to eliminate vulnerability, but to manage and offer it wisely. So every time you lift your armor, your partner feels invited to step in and, together with you, craft a sustainable relationship built on respect and trust. Building on our exploration of vulnerability and the implicit dance between anxious and avoidant attachment styles, we now dive into the activating strategies, the behaviors anxiously attached individuals resort to when they perceive the relationship as threatened. Beneath every action lies the deep drive to soothe abandonment fears. Yet these behaviors often unwittingly backfire on avoidantly attached partners, complicating rather than repairing the bond. Hypercontact. When a response doesn't arrive swiftly, those with anxious attachment plunge into an immediate sense of being abandoned. They send barrage after barrage of texts, make repeated calls, even flood email and social media channels. This outpouring stems from a core fear. If they relinquish contact, they lose control and risk vanishing from their partner's mind. For avoidant individuals, however, this notification storm feels like a tightening shackle. They feel suffocated, infringed upon, and instinctively retreat into silence or cut off communication altogether. 2. Strategic withdrawal. While hypercontact is an offensive clutch for reassurance, strategic withdrawal is a counterattack tactic designed to incite longing. The anxiously attached suddenly disappears, ignoring messages, feigning busyness, or going dark briefly. The goal is to spur the partner into action, to experience loss and seek reconnection. Yet, avoidant partners often feel a welcome relief at the granted space. Instead of chasing, they savor the absence of pressure, rarely motivated to reestablish contact themselves. 3. Scoring and tit for tat. To counter feelings of helplessness, anxious individuals tally points, only calling or texting after their partner initiates. Every message becomes an invisible credit or debit, offering a fleeting sense of entitlement and fairness. Ironically, by turning affection into a ledger, they reinforce the notion that love is conditional. Avoidant partners interpret this scoreboard mentality as a sign that boundaries must be guarded. They engage only when comfortable. Otherwise, they withdraw further. Hostility and grandstanding. If subtler methods fail, anxiously attached individuals may escalate to hostile cues, rolling eyes, heavy sighs, complaints, or even threats like, "If you don't care, don't pretend." This assertive roar aims to jolt the partner into reaction. Yet for avoidance, any sign of emotional hostility only confirms their belief that relationships are burdensome obligations. Their self-protection instinct triggers an even swifter retreat at the sight of confrontation, manipulation, and jealousy induction. Finally, some resort to manipulation, pretending to be busy, dropping references to others, or orchestrating jealousy to force a partner's attention. They anticipate that the threat of loss will provoke a reassuring response. But avoidant individuals, averse to emotional turbulence, find this tactic even more unsettling. In their world, attracting through jealousy signals dependency, which they strive to avoid at all costs. Though each activating strategy emerges from a genuine desire for connection, it paradoxically collides with avoidant needs for space, escalating tension rather than dissolving it. Every attempt at reassurance inadvertently tightens the grip, prompting a stronger pullback from the partner, fueling an endless loop of anxiety and withdrawal. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward liberation. Understand why you act this way and empathize with your partner's instinctive responses. With this clarity, you can abandon counterproductive tactics and instead adopt healthier strategies, transforming the impulse for instant soothing into open, respectful communication that honors both connection and individual autonomy. After thoroughly exploring the activating strategies employed by anxiously attached individuals, ranging from hyper-contact and strategic withdrawal, to scoring and tit-for-tat hostility and jealousy induction, it becomes clear that these dynamics provoke equally strong responses from avoidantly attached partners. This brings us to the next critical phase: how avoidant individuals react when faced with such overt bids for connection, triggering a cascade of self-protective behaviors deeply rooted in their formative experiences. First and foremost, avoidant individuals experience an acute sense of being controlled, engulfed, or coerced. Imagine living with caregivers who punished every expression of need or emotion. Over time, you learn to shut down vulnerability, since any display of feelings is labeled weak or troublesome. When an anxiously attached partner's barrage of messages or manipulative behaviors appears, avoidant individuals instinctively recognize the pattern. If I reveal my needs, they will invade my personal space and demand more than I can give. This perceived loss of autonomy stirs panic, immediately activating their default defense, digging in deeper behind their emotional armor. Consequently, they often retreat further into themselves, mirroring the childhood pullback they used with unresponsive parents. Picture an avoidant person pulling the emergency brake on emotional closeness, seeking a safe zone of silence, whether by extended non-response, emotional detachment, or minimizing meaningful conversations. In that moment, they find comfort in solitude, as if reclaiming a key to their own fortress. But this very withdrawal leaves the anxiously attached partner baffled. Why have they disappeared? What have I done wrong? This abrupt shutdown slams the door on intimacy, leaving an empty void that only amplifies the anxious partner's fear and provokes yet another cycle of reassurance. Seeking, in many cases, avoidants don't just retreat, they vanish from the emotional landscape when they feel manipulated or pressured. While anxious individuals view silence as a test to spur the partner to reach out, avoidant individuals treat silence as a perfect shield, ignoring texts, not answering calls, and sometimes disappearing altogether for extended periods. Their non-response is not indifference, but a learned strategy. Absence protects me from further hurt. For avoidant partners, any sign of emotional insistence demands a silent reprieve. Moreover, the anxious partner's behaviors inadvertently reinforce the avoidant's belief that love is dangerous or inherently tied to obligation and pain. Each barrage of messages, each bout of anger or threat to leave, becomes another brick in the avoidant's defensive wall. Love is conditional. Vulnerability invites abandonment or criticism. I cannot openly express my needs without risking rejection. This defensive construction not only damages fragile trust, but transforms the relationship into a battlefield where both parties guard their emotional territory fiercely. The result is a cyclical spiral from cling-withdraw to avoid-pursue that repeats endlessly. The more the anxious partner activates, the further the avoidant partner pulls away, leading to an uneasy compromise where neither side achieves the sense of security or connection they crave. Each interaction reopens old wounds: the anxious partner's fear of abandonment and the avoidant partner's fear of engulfment. Between these powerful poles, vulnerability loses its potential as a bridge and instead becomes a weapon that can wound deeply. Breaking free from this cycle requires both partners to clearly identify their own and each other's defense patterns. In the next section, we will explore how conscious communication skills can transform these protective mechanisms, rebuild trust, and foster inner security, guiding the relationship toward genuine mutual support rather than perpetual tension. Having clearly identified the avoidant partner's defense mechanisms, ranging from feelings of being controlled and engulfed to their deeper retreats and complete vanishings, the next step is to explore solutions and guidance for breaking the cycle of tension, specifically for those with an anxious attachment style. First and foremost, you must learn to self-regulate your emotions the moment anxiety signs emerge, rather than hastily seeking reassurance from your partner. This demands keen awareness of your heart rate, breathing, and bodily sensations. So, when your heart races, pause, take 3 deep breaths, and gently remind yourself, nothing is lost yet, or I am still safe in this moment. Over time, you will develop the habit of self-soothing without depending on your partner's promises or responses. Next, cultivate the ability to regard vulnerable emotions as a natural aspect of being human, not something to be hidden or avoided. By labeling these feelings, I feel insecure, I'm afraid of being left behind, and acknowledging that everyone experiences vulnerability. This practice helps cool the embers of anxiety and frees you from guilt when admitting your need for connection. Additionally, you must refine clear, honest, non-manipulative, non-controlling communication. Instead of flooding their inbox or sulking in silence, proactively express your needs and boundaries respectfully. G. When your replies come late, I feel anxious. I would appreciate it if you could let me know when you'll be free so I'm not left hanging. This not only sends a direct message about your needs, but also demonstrates respect for your partner's time and space. Finally, learn when to stop, to preserve your self-respect. If, after a clear conversation, your partner still does not respond, further pleading or testing them only erodes your self-esteem and reinforces the belief that you must tolerate a lack of responsiveness. Instead, set a clear boundary for yourself, such as allowing a reasonable waiting period, and, if no positive sign appears, gently taking a step back to protect your emotional energy. When you skillfully combine these three elements, self-regulation, embracing vulnerability as normal, and clear communication coupled with self-respect boundaries, you will not only minimize anxiety triggers, but also create a safe, communicative space where both partners can truly listen and respect one another. Within that safe environment, the avoidant partner will gradually recognize that vulnerability is not pressure, but a doorway to genuine connection. They will feel secure enough to respond without fearing the loss of their comfort zone. And the relationship will evolve from reactive patterns into a shared journey of building trust and lasting intimacy. Ultimately, the journey of exploring vulnerability and understanding how anxious and avoidant attachment styles interact in relationships is about learning to strike a balance between connection and respect for personal space. By recognizing your own activating strategies and grasping your partner's defensive reactions, you hold the key to transforming tension into genuine closeness. Remember that self-regulating your emotions not only frees you from relying on external reassurance, but also lays the groundwork for solid self-esteem. Embracing your vulnerable feelings as a natural part of being human releases you from guilt and shame. At the same time, clear, honest, and respectful communication paired with healthy boundaries creates a safe space where both partners can share without fear of judgment or pressure. Start practicing today. When anxiety knocks, pause, breathe, name the emotion, and express your needs authentically. Don't forget to set boundaries to preserve your dignity. With each small step, you'll notice your relationship shifting from a chase and avoid cycle into a harmonious duet of two hearts beating in peaceful sync. If you found these insights valuable, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss upcoming videos. Thank you for watching until the end, wishing you strength and fulfillment on your path to building secure connections